Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari and today I have Cyril Abaku with me. Good morning.
A pleasure. Good
Indeed.
morning.
Well, quite a number of places we've got to stop off today. We'll come to talk later on about the latest from WHO and indeed our man, Dr. Ihekwezu,
Yeah,
Chike Ihekwezu, that coronavirus after all might well possibly be airborne. We'll come to that. As a friend of mine was saying, lock the windows, lock the doors. No, but the other very important thing is the story that sort of began to get some sort of traction, that men of the Nigerian army were resigning in hordes because of a lack of morale and that kind of thing. Well, I don't know. You see, because this is a time when all sorts of stories are flying all over the place, especially on social media. This is where it usually originates from. And we, as far as we know, we spoke to people who should know. And well, in the first instance, there is not very much wrong or very much strange about just as people come into the army in batches, they just might, when the time reaches, also be able to leave in batches. But all of these things are very much done in an organized manner. So when people now take these facts and put a different spin on them, I guess it does draw attention.
The report we saw said that about 380 of them
Can you imagine?
had written to say they were disengaging from the army. Quite a number of them, the fewer number, said they were going to take traditional titles, maybe Obas and Igwes and stuff like that. But for the larger chunk, as the story goes, is to say that they have lost interest in continuing on the front lines against Boko Haram. So this is really the crux of the matter. The report also goes on to say that the letters were acknowledged, as it were, and that but that these disengagements wouldn't happen until I think December the 3rd. So there's a whole time for discussions to take place, if at all there will be any. Because if you ask me, I think that people disengaging from the service, in that number, is a bit concerning. First, for why they're leaving, and the other for the fact that people with their training, with their exposure, with their background, professional background in the army, in the armed services, should not just be released into the civil population like that. So this is where really the concern is and what the issues are. So this is just to lay a groundwork to the discussion for today.
Indeed, and to help us understand it a lot better is Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu, retired. Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, retired. He's a former deputy head of security at African Union Commission, Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. He's also a security consultant. Group Captain Shehu, good morning. Okay, but we will have him. We're working on it. Sometimes, the lines drift in and out. And, he actually has put out some sort of a rejoinder to sort of explain it all. Because when people grab hold of stories like this, I don't know, sometimes don't they think about our boys in uniform? When you start talking about morale in this sort of a way, I don't know how good their own communication and the way they get information is. They're spread all over the place. And when some people hear who might not be where other people, that is other servicemen also are, it can really cause confusion, And I don't know why, well, why does anybody do anything? It's really, because there's mischief in. That's another thing we have to be careful about. That reminds me of something that Lai Mohammed, Minister of Information, Honorable Minister of Information, came up with. I think something like a year ago. He was talking about efforts to regulate social media because that's where a lot of havoc is done. That was just an aside, But this is probably the kind of thing how it can be very dangerous when people get hold of the social media and transmit information. I don't know that as many people are watching television as have a WhatsApp or a Facebook or account on their phone, and they might take as gospel what they're reading.
Like Marshall McLuhan is a communication scholar. He said one time that the medium is the message, as opposed to you having a messenger with a message and you need a medium. He says the medium is the message. It is called social media. So imagine walking into a pub, barbering salon,
Indeed.
walking into a marketplace, it's a deafening buzz. But I again, that was an aside. But the reality is that, like former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill would say, the time it takes truth to put on her pants, the lie has already gone around the world and come back.
Straight.
So what
we see? Well, sorry. We have Group Captain Sadiq Shehu retired with us, as I was saying earlier, and we also have our friend, Libros Shoma, Mr. Shoma. He's a legal practitioner. Group Captain Shehu, retired, is the former Deputy Head of Security at African Union Commission in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and he's also a security consultant. Good morning, Group Captain Shehu. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, good morning. Well, we also have with us Libros. Good morning. Good morning, Libros.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for calling in.
Good morning.
We're still trying to.
Nigerian and.
Thank you, Libros. Group Captain Shehu, good morning. Well, Libros, as we were saying, you yourself, you know, you also observe the polity, you know, quite keenly, and are a commentator yourself. Now, this story, the spin that was attached to people leaving the Nigerian army, which is not an unheard of event, but the spin that has been put on it. Give me your comments.
Yori, these are not the best times for Nigeria. Even though I agree completely that the spin will further demotivate others who also are encouraged to sustain the fight. Yeah, because if you hear that your colleagues are leaving in drove, you also would want to leave. It is not a time for us to further demotivate our soldiers, because these are truly not the best of time for the once giant of Africa. But that said, also the military hierarchy has also contributed to all of this. You know, consistently, if you remember, we had also warned that military matters are not matters that the authorities should allow to be discussed, you know, frivolously in the public. And so, but with the attitude that the military hierarchy, starting from the last administration till date, you hear, if you heard of the humongous amount that were found in some former service chief's house. And then you hear also during the last administration that the boys were heavily demotivated. One would have expected that coming on board, that this administration would have helped, you know, in further enhancing the morale and the supply of equipment, considering that the military budget since for the past 10 years has been the highest, in almost all the sector. And then quickly
you're
also,
very right, Libros, but these are two stories that are being mixed up, perhaps in a mischievous sort of a way, depending on what side of the conversation you happen to be on. But I think Group Captain Shehu, maybe are we okay, we still will find a way to talk to Group Captain Shehu. Did you understand what I was trying to say, Libros? That
yes,
you know,
yes,
these are two different stories. The one that you are telling, which indeed all Nigerians know about and have been commenting on, and indeed have been admonishing the government about, but mixing it up with this one now, that's where you wonder sometimes at Nigerians. I imagine it's Nigerians that are putting out the spin on this story.
No. You can't separate the two, really. Why I agree, like I said, these are not the best of time for us. And some of these stories also, they are stories that would not be too good for even the military hierarchy to release such information. People resign from their job every now and then, whether good or bad. People resign from jobs. There are people who, for health reason, might also be resigning from the military. There are people who, for reasons, for the fact that they have, completed their graduation program and they are not promoted, who would feel, look, they would rather want to move to other things. People resign from their jobs.
Or maybe people who have just simply served 35 years and are due for retirement if they apply for it.
Yes. No, retirement is different from resignation. The army retires people who are due for retirement. Why people would voluntarily resign, or in some cases you are forced to resign.
But can we be sure that this is resignation as opposed to just leaving the army via, the avenue of what is it now? Retirement, because people can voluntarily retire. I just wanted to get to the truth of the story, and that's where the military man, as soon as we can connect with him, is going to be helpful.
Yeah.
In fact, one moment, please. One moment, Libros. I beg your pardon, please. One moment. We do have a group captain, Sadiq Garuba Shehu. There you go. There's a well-known name in the middle of those two names. Good morning, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very, very much for coming on. I've been saying that you're a former deputy head of security at the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and indeed nowadays you're a security consultant. And I read your write-up on one of the social media on Facebook, sort of reacting to the story about our boys in uniform, our men in uniform, as it were, maybe men and women, leaving the army en masse, and you had sought to put perspective on it. The number is anywhere from 356 to 380, depending on what source you're reading. So one of the points you made in your write-up was that this is not entirely unusual if a mischievous spin is not to be put on it. Am I correct?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, I have been asked several times by other people about this phenomenon. You completely get it right to say that just reporting that 356 or 380 soldiers are retiring from the army in a single year is not something abnormal. Now,
but the word, sorry, yes, sir, the word retiring that you've used is one. There are other people using the word resign, and there is a difference between the two words.
Yes. Now, the figures given, to be sincere, they will contain both those that retired and those that resign. Now, let's get clear what these terms mean. When you say resign, not only in the military, in any other something, it means it is something that is initiated by the employee himself. I want to resign. That means it is initiated by the employee himself. But when you say retirement, this is initiated by the employer. That is to say, either by some certain terms and conditions of service, somebody has service has expired and then is going to be retired. So again, I see our journalists using these two terms. I trace this incident. Who was the first to report this incident? If you check, you'll find that this story was first reported by Premium Times by one Hassan Adebayo precisely on 11 July. And the initial title of the story was Nigerian Army Faces Moral Crisis as 356 soldiers exit over loss of interest.
Okay, moral crisis.
Yes, moral crisis as a result of loss of interest. Okay. To be honest with you, the only thing that is true about that headline probably is just the number of soldiers. But the writer is not in a position to deduce that it was a moral crisis or loss of interest that is going. I will give you an example. In the military, whether as an officer or an enlisted person, group of young men or young women, they enter into the military in sets, like a class in a secondary school. Depending on the exigencies of the service, this number could be as high as 300 up to 700 people entering the army at any one time. Now, already in the terms and conditions of service, if you look at the harmonized terms and conditions of service for soldiers, ratings, and airmen, Section 2-14 says, except with the approval of the relevant service headquarters, the service of a soldier, naval rating, or an airman shall not exceed 35 years. So when you say the people, if you look at this story in its original form from Premium Times, they are talking that among those people that retired, there are master warrant officers and warrant officers. Now, on the average, it will not take you anything less than 30, 32 years to reach the rank of master warrant officer or warrant officer, depending on your, it differs from individual to individual. But on the average, you will need 32 years. So if somebody gets 32, some will get at that 32, some even later. So when you talk about warrant officers, you are talking of somebody who is nearing that 35 years that is specified in the terms and conditions of service. So there is nothing abnormal if such a person is living in the service. And like I told you, people join the military in batches. So that means if you walk backwards, the soldiers that joined the military in 1985, in this 2020, they should be getting ready to exit the military because they have reached this requirement of 35 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
so this is you see, this is where the spin is. Now from premium times, other like the Cable, Punch, Sahara reporters, they also carried the story, but they added their own spin. From the original Nigerian Army faces moral crisis as 356 soldiers exit over lost interest, the titling of the story changed to 356 soldiers tender resignation to Buratai, cite loss of interest. Okay. Now, the point I have made here is that if you have served, a soldier is engaged first for a term of 10 years. That is the initial engagement. What does it mean? It means after that 10 years, because we do not have a conscript army, the young man or young woman can decide that after that 10 years, he wants to resign. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. So it is possible. It is indeed possible to resign.
He can stay. Now, apart from, sorry, please let me finish. Apart from the 35 years, there is section 0216, which talks about medical standard. That means even while you are in the military, when you, at every time your medical standard is being reviewed, either for natural causes or for injury in war, it may be the military will find that a certain soldier or a certain officer is no longer fit to perform his duties, and then he will be retired. So in all this case, what I'm telling you, there is a normal retirement of a soldier reaching 35 years, as in the case of warrant officers. If it is below the warrant officers, the soldier has opted to use his right to resign after serving that minimum of 10 years, which is the initial. He wants to go, there's nothing wrong. For others, it is medical. So all in all, what I am saying, given the number of people that enter per set, which naturally they will also leave the army about the same date, the number of 356 or even 380 exiting the army in this particular year is nothing wrong. Okay. Let me set another example. The people that joined the army in 1985, which are called the 20 set, they just finished their graduation in the resettlement center at Oshoji, and there were around 240 of them that left. This set initially they were 700 when they were recruited in 1985. But of course, natural illnesses, those that didn't agree to extend their stay. So the point I am making, please, we should not just give any spin as of moral loss of morale or whatever. It is natural. Just as the saying goes, soldier comes, soldier goes. Okay. Every year, and for every set, this number will leave, and then maybe an appropriate number or even more number than that will join the military.
Okay. Group Captain, the army, the military has an information or PR directorate. You have retired from the military. How come it is you that are picking up this cause and it is not coming to us from the Directorate of Information, or that? Why are they not, explaining this to us?
Thank you very much. This is a very important question, and I have to be very honest with you. I also wonder that the military, and please, it should be taken. I am speaking in my personal capacity, even though at a certain time I have even served as Director of Information for the Nigerian Air Force, but I'm speaking in my private capacity. Now, I think what you said is right. The military should take note that there are certain things that we don't have to be secretive about. In all honesty, I don't see anything secretive about. But you have to again look at the genesis of this story. Certainly, Premium Times, which was the first to report this story, they got hold of some military documents. But like I said, documents have different security classification. I think the routine retirement of soldiers, which I've explained is routine, should not be something secret. Okay. Should not be something secret. When you try to make something secret, that is what gives this rise as if the army is trying to hide. Okay. Like I told you, if you check last year, definitely a certain number like that must have left. Right. Next year, whether there is war or not war, people will leave. Because I have quoted you the section which says service should not extend 35 years. Okay. I have quoted the section which says after a soldier has served 10 years, because we are not in a conscript army, he has the right to say, okay, I'm not extending my stay, I want to leave. And I will add one final thing, not only in the military, people that are in human resources will tell you, the millennials, what I mean the millennials, people born in 2000 to now, the young people, they don't want to stay in one job for long. This is general in all professions. Okay. We have young men now who want to move from one work to another. Okay. So much so that staying 35 years on a job is no longer it's no longer the norm. So this is the people have researched on that. So again, please, I'm appealing to my military people. Sometimes they have to be upfront with information. Okay. There is nothing to be hidden about soldiers. A routine retirement. Indeed. So I expect, like you said, the military to come out and address this issue. Okay. So far, there is no official response.
Because that leads to the comment I'm about to make, which is that whereas we are appreciative that you are shedding light on this whole matter, I was wondering, and you said that you yourself wondered. Are you doing this, good work, that is writing, coming on the media to talk with the knowledge and approval of the military? In other words, do they know? Are you working in some sort of a contractual capacity with them? Or is this just for the love of the profession?
None at all. I'm happy you said you have been following my comments on social media. I retired in fact, I'm a very good example. I retired voluntarily from the military after serving 27 years. I could have stayed and served 35 years, but I opted that I wanted to do something different. Now, having said that, I am one of the retired officers who believes that if the military is to get better, if the military is to get reformed, and I think there's a lot of reforms needed, retired officers like us who know the inside will need to comment socially on issues that involve the military. Okay. And in all honesty, that is the only thing that drives me. I am not talking as a consultant on this issue, or in fact, I didn't call anybody. Like I said, I am speaking on my own capacity. And why this particular issue? There is tendency to sow panic among the citizens. Because whether we like it or not, some people have to go and sacrifice their lives while the rest of us sleep. So if you give the information that soldiers are running away, they are abandoning the work, they want to leave us to our feet, that might bring panic in the populace. To be honest, that is the only thing that motivated me to go and write what you saw and why you invited me to come and comment on this thing. It's just not to give unnecessary panic. All right. Which is the wording. The way this thing is reported, it's like everybody is running away. Soon we will not have soldiers. Far from it. Soldier come, soldier go, barrack remains.
Okay, group captains, it's a good thing that you've helped us to give perspective to these issues, but I'm a bit concerned to the fact that you've explained the process it will take for someone to become a master warrant officer, for instance.
Yes.
But from the report we have here, since that is all that we have to hold on to, there are only 2 master warrant officers involved, as it were, and I think about 4 warrant officers, if the facts we have are anything to go by. My concern is that shouldn't we be worried when a letter is being written, according to the report, specifically citing lack of interest? What do you say about that?
Okay. Now let's come to numbers. Again, like I said, based on the questions I've been asked, I trace the genesis of this story. I still maintain that the first media to break this story, from which all other media copied their story, is Premium Times by one Hassan Ajebai on 11/20. If you get hold of that article, he said 2 master warrant officers and 28 warrant officers. So it's not only 2 master warrant officers, there are 28 warrant officers. Now, this one you can easily account for people. These are people that have spent, I can assure you with my military experience, they couldn't have spent anything less than 32 years in the military. Nothing less than that. So these are people nearing that 35 years requirement. Of course, okay, another one, it mentioned that there are people maybe of lower rank. Again, those one you can account for the fact that they decided to trigger that requirement that said when a soldier has served his 10 years, he has the right to say, I want to go and do something just like I did here.
Yes, okay.
You can decide you want to go. Now, the next part of your question you asked, I love that. What did you say?
Lack of interest.
Lack of interest,
yes.
Whether in the military or not. The requirement is that if you want to leave, if it is a voluntary retirement, you will write to the authority citing the reason. And in all honesty, soldiers as disciplined people, I can account for you. I have not seen the document, but the paper is claiming that most of them wrote lack of interest. It could be so.
Okay.
But what I am saying,
Right.
if Mr. A wants to leave the military, he has the right to say this is one. In fact, some people say they want to join politics. It is a very normal decision.
Okay, Group Captain, one second, please. One second, please. Group Captain, thank you very, very much, because you're really, clarifying this whole matter. But we have with us also Libros Oshoma. And thank you very much, Libros, for your patience, because we yielded the floor, as it were, to, someone who is of that fold.
Yes.
So now that you've heard this...
Yes, Yori.
Sure, go ahead.
Uncle Yori, I'm a staff in TVC, so I understand the original.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you.
He has information to give, and so there was need for me to yield the floor for him to exhaust, all of those information. But be that as it may, there was a very fundamental question.
Very briefly, please. We have about 3 minutes more.
Captain. Yeah, there's also the group captain agreed to that information. The army refusing to either, debunk this story, clarify it, or corroborate it. These are the best of times for Nigeria. And that's so. We agree. Why people, like I said earlier, people could have retired for any reason, for the fact that promotion wasn't coming as at when due. Loss of interest is very bogus. And so there is need at every time, in the absence of information, rumor, tribes,
yes,
there is need at every point for the army to clarify information. Mind you, also, because of the fight against insurgency in almost every part of Nigeria, and the fact that it is obvious that also our men are demotivated. We have seen videos, we have heard from some of them are our relations. And when you have all of this in the mix, any twist to any story will naturally carry the day.
Okay, so Libros, I want to thank you very much. I want to give the group captain, the retired group captain, the last word on this, But Libros, please stay with us as we go to the close of this segment. Group captain, the last word, would you like to comment very briefly on what he was saying there?
Okay, I thank you very much for conceding that maybe information is not out. And I also, as a former retired man, I will tell the military authorities to do more to be proactive to come out with information. Unfortunately, the military is an institution that almost everything is secret. But from what I am seeing, sometimes you make some information secret to your own detriment.
Okay.
If the military has explained this, I explained, I am sure all this, because some people are commenting out of panic that all our soldiers are going. But it is not so. The military profession will continue to attract people. As this 380 go on that normal procedure, I can assure you about double or triple of that number will also go in. So please, I call on my colleagues to be out. It's not everything that is secret. It's a military mindset. I was in it, I know. Everything secret. Please come out and explain how people do it. And like I said, the hashtag was I did say, it shouldn't even be a hidden document. Anybody who wants to comment how do soldiers retire should be able to consult it.
All right. Thank you very much, Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu, retired. We'll take a break now. Libros, please stay with us because when we come back, there's more for us to say. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. And switching gears a bit now, everybody's noticed the ongoing sort of almost like an imbroglio between the Niger Delta, well, more particularly the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Kwabio, and the former acting MD of the NDDC, Bene Nunye. It's been all over the place. Libros, this one, unfortunate. Well, maybe I should first of all edit that word out. Edit the word "unfortunately" out. Bene Nunye, she did an interview on a TV station yesterday. What's this, our sister station? Arise TV. You must have seen it. It went viral.
Yes, I have.
What is going on here? Has this become something of a personal matter now, as opposed to the real business of both the NDDC and the minister?
Yes, it's very, very, very unfortunate that the matter is leaving the realm of the issues of underdevelopment and the issue of the genuine intention of Mr. President to actually clean the urgent table in the interventionist agency, NDDC, and is moving to the realm of personal and to even harassment and all of that.
And it's gotten down into the gutter.
Yes, very, 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 very unfortunate. And that's why, for me, I am one of those that have consistently advocated that Mr. President does not need an interim management committee. All he needs is a forensic auditor. Appoint a forensic auditor to audit the activities of the NDDC. Anytime, at various times, we have heard that forensic auditors have been appointed to audit the accounts of the NNPC. And all those times, NNPC had its board, and NNPC had its, statutory workers. There was no time the NNPC had an interim management committee while it was being audited. And so, in the first place, if the Mr. President had inaugurated the board, John Union wouldn't have been an acting MD. Akpabio would not have all the kind of powers that he's having under an interim management committee that is not a board. And so they are unable to take the decisions that ordinarily a board would have taken. And then the board would have been able to also appropriately supervise the going of the NDDC while the audit is being carried out. Okay. But be that as it may, it is obvious now that the NDDC is a cesspool of corruption, starting from the former management, the former management to the interim management. Because
and that has become the story. Remember, the interim, and that really has become the story of the NDDC now. It's become a story synonymous with corruption, and that's the unfortunate part. That's the unfortunate part, because, as you said, it's supposed to be about development, but we're now looking at what looks like alleged greed and an insatiable appetite for, I don't know, is it avarice? Is it money? Is it whatever it is?
But quickly also, so that we pigeonhole this issue, the people underdeveloping the Niger Delta are from Niger Delta. The people who have been manning the NDDC are from the Niger Delta, who ordinarily should be interested in the development of the Niger Delta. The people who are collecting contracts, collecting money, and not executing the jobs are from the Niger Delta. The interim management committee had even accused the initial board of huge corruption, that in some cases that chairs that were allegedly said to have been supplied to schools found their way back to the shops where they were bought. And the interim management committee also have been accused of spending 10 billion naira for sensitization, COVID sensitization, 1.1 billion for COVID maternal kits. And then that the management committee were paying themselves 40 million, 30 million for hotel bills during the lockdown. And you wonder which hotel was open in Port Harcourt.
Libros, I hear you, Libros. Libros, one second, please, because now that things have gotten this bad, that is to say, in addition to the stuff that you are also saying from what is out there in the public, the fact that Bene Nunye, the former acting MD of NDDC, is the person, as it were, opening these kind of worms, and a major target of her, shall we say, object of all of this is a serving minister, former governor and senator. What options do you think are left to Mr. President, who I imagine has to take charge and take hold of this whole situation?
It's not a tough one if we want to be sincere with ourselves. The moment Akpabio left PDP and moved into APC, I knew it wasn't for altruistic reasons. It was for selfish reasons. And the moment he was made a minister, and minister for Niger Delta for that matter, some of us felt, well, this is the end of anti-corruption fight in that area. And so it is not a tough one. Now, the acting chairman of the EFCC had been suspended and a panel set up to investigate him. I also think that Mr. President can do this sitting with the NDDC, suspend both the minister and the interim management committee, and then set up a forensic auditor, an independent forensic auditor, and at the same time set up a panel of inquiry to investigate all of these allegations. It's not rocket science. There's no need to pander towards Joy Nunez or Akpabio, because we are just seeing part one. I know Akpabio also will probably want to release some other dossier. Maybe from today now you hear other ones from Akpabio's camp about what Joy Nunez did. And then she also will be provoked to release more. So to save us all of these theatrics, let Mr. President in his wake to fighting corruption set up a panel, an independent panel, to truly look into these allegations from both ends. The same vein, I had expected that the panel of Josiah Salami's panel, the terms of reference also should be expanded to include the allegation against the Attorney General, and then also to audit the ICPC. So with that, for me, it will be a reawakening call that truly this government is sincere and ready to fight corruption headlong. Because if people who are in government, who are supposed to be saddled with the responsibility of carrying on Mr. President's agenda and his drive to actually rid this nation of corruption, these are the same people who are neck deep in it. Imagine the revelation from Joy Nunez that when she was appointed, Mr. President, the minister told her and said, look, Mrs. MD, if you do not dance to my tune, the same pen I use to sign your appointment is the same pen I will use to remove you. And when Akpabio was asked to respond, and he started talking about the fact that the woman had 4 husbands, what has the fact that she had 4 husbands got to do with the allegation that you asked her to divert funds? Also, the allegation against Dr. Cairo Jubo, that monies meant for payment of scholarship for people of the Niger Delta were found in his account. That is great enough. That's enough. And also, I have listened to some of these students abroad that since 2019, that when they were awarded the scholarship, their money had not been paid. So all of this, we can't allow the theatrics of personal, whether I slapped him or he wanted to go for plan B. We should allow them cover all of these grave allegations.
We'll just take for granted that
would be a laughing stock.
Just take for granted that people understand the plan B. We don't want to go into the gory details, but it's been sufficiently out there for people to probably understand the plan B and slapping and all of that. In fact, our correspondent, Tijesu, actually put a story together. Let's take that now.
It started as a simple probe by a Senate ad hoc committee into financial spendings under various leadership of the Niger Delta Development Commission. Now events seem to have taken on a life of their own, as details of seeming reckless spendings by the past and present leaderships were uncovered by the Senate ad hoc committee in the National Assembly. Accusations and counter-accusations started flying. The chairman of the committees on Niger Delta Development of both houses of the federal legislature were accused by the present interim management committee of trying to hijack the NDDC. But that was not the height of the drama.
Since I became the minister,
the appearance before the Senate ad hoc committee of the Minister of Niger Delta and a later talk with journalists by the former managing director of the Interim Management Committee of the Niger Delta Development Commission was an exchange of nasty accusations.
Nobody makes any payment in NDDC without Godswill Akpabio's approval. When we first came to NDDC, on the day of going for the inauguration, he told me in the car that, Madam MD, if you don't do what I say, the same pen with which I used to sign your letter, it will be the same pen that I will use to remove you.
As if that was not enough,
phoned the managing director. I said, is this true?
Godswill Akpabio went on national television to counter accusations of corruption, high-handedness, and falsehood by launching a personal attack on Joy Nunez's character and discrediting her academic credentials. The minister's men have also been out on the attack. Joy Nunes' character is now a subject of criticisms.
Issues of certificate falsifications or certificate deficiencies should come out to say that is why he or she was asked to step aside. But outside that, I don't like malicious allegations. I don't like falsifications. And there are documentations and proofs. But to bring the issue of certification deficiency and now cover it up with fetishism is unacceptable and is a malicious allegation.
All hell seems to have been let loose, and NDDC's dirty laundry is being washed in public. Joy Nunes has hit back with even more scandalous accusations, accusing a former senator who is now the Minister of Niger Delta of sexual harassment. Until investigations are concluded, it is too early to take sides in a matter with no end in sight. TJ Swadue, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, that was just a sort of a recap. People have seen that story, you know, ad nauseum. It's all over the social media. And but we just sort of wanted to put it together. We're going to commercial break now. Thank you very much, Libros, for staying with us. Indeed, we still expect you to be there if it's possible. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, our man Libros. Well, the man said he's our man, and so indeed, in an honorary sort of way, thank you very much, Libros, for being with us. Libros, a Shama legal practitioner, and indeed a commentator in his own right. You need to see the advocate. But say, Libros, you, in your opinion, it's a very simple one for Mr. President to handle. Okay.
Yeah.
You can say that, but we also know, most Nigerians also know that Mr. President doesn't just jump into matters like that. He will take his time a bit. He will take his time a bit to sort it out and come up with a position, no doubt, in his own mind before he directs how to go. Look at the Magu incident. There are people who are saying it could have been nipped, you know, way back, but again, this is what we have. So if indeed it continues like this and there is no word yet from the highest echelons of our society, and we have gotten down into the gutter on a very, very important aspect of our social well-being, the NDDC and all of that, I'm just a bit worried. Unless you think that, well, there's always an exception. It's possible that you might hear something from the presidency between today and tomorrow on this whole matter.
I would not want to be that hopeful that I would hear from the presidency between today and tomorrow. Because like you said, the president takes his time to take decisions, which is not too good, for us at this time. Like the case of Magu. If the president had been timeous enough, nobody would have been debating whether the fight against corruption is ongoing or not. Nobody would have been debating whether this thinking, whether it's actually an indictment or an encouragement. For me, I believe it's an encouragement for the fight against corruption, because when the man at the helm of affairs in the EFCC, the president had instructed that he also be investigated, it means, like they have said, that there is nobody who is above the law. So I also think that in this case, the president should also not wait for too long, because by the time you wait for too long, the issues would have degenerated to a gutter level issue.
We're already in the gutter now. We are already in the gutter.
We're in the gutter,
that's my view.
You remember.
But sorry.
You remember Fashola?
Okay. Let me take Mr. Manuel. Mr. Manuel, I'll come back to you. Mr. Manuel has called in from Otukpo, I believe.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Siri Abaku.
Good morning to you.
This Niger Delta issue is a very pathetic case. And the show between Joy and Akpabio was a very great shame for the entire country. It makes me wonder if we still have a credible man in the South-South. And is it not this same region that we have people like Professor Tande West and also Ken Sarowiwa? Are we now saying that the death of Ken Sarowiwa is in vain? I think the Niger Delta people should sit up and take proper care of that region.
Indeed.
We don't need all this kind of drama.
All right, then.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manuel, for calling in. Indeed, well, you know, the lady that is also in the midst of this whole, you know, scandal, debacle, when, you know, Joy Nunia has said that she's a proud Ogoni woman.
Port Harcourt girl.
And well, yes.
Well, to borrow her own words.
To borrow her own words, that she is a Port Harcourt girl, and people don't mess with Port Harcourt girls. They are not impressed by money, and that she was insulted by, you know.
In fairness, Mr. Akpabio also said she wasn't removed because of corruption. He said she was removed because of insubordination, whatever that means. The fact is that I think we have overlooked some of the root causes of this crisis. The NDC is part of the wisdom of a central government that believes it understands a region better than the people that are from that place. I'm from the South. Part of the agitations that led to the creation of the NDDC had been there when UNPADEC was created. And the demand was that what you did in Abuja, do also in our region. To wit, give licenses to big construction companies. Let them leave the oil by themselves and follow a master plan to construct bridges, construct roads, schools, housing, and so on. But some people came together and formed a Kwango.
And cornered
everything.
Just about
so
all the contracts.
In a manner of
second,
speaking,
let me not keep, I beg your pardon, let me not keep Chidi in Kafanchan waiting. Good morning, Chidi.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for calling.
Good morning, Cyril. How are you?
A very good morning to you. I'm fine.
Beautiful. I can see you glittering over the television set.
Thank you.
I want to contribute concerning the resignation and retirement of the Nigerian troops or Nigerian military, so to speak.
Sure.
It's not a healthy development to hear that such huge number of Nigerian military men are resigning the way they are doing. It shows that they did not put the interest of this country at heart in the first instance. Then secondly, it shows that the government of the day is not doing the needed thing to be done in order to create morality and boost their morale to do what is constitutionally required of them in order to save the Nigerian territory as it is what is written in the Nigerian constitution. So I want to advise or opine to the government to do the needful in order to boost the morale of the Nigerian troops.
All right.
The way insecurity is threatening to the fabric of this country is not good for us and our democracy. Thank you very much, Uncle Yori, and God bless Nigeria.
Indeed, amen. And thank you very much, Chidi, for calling in. He was referring to our first subject there, you know, that had been explained by someone from the military, and he took a separate kind of a position that a twist might have been given to it, but, you know, it wasn't entirely, you know, unusual. And indeed, our other resource person, Libros Oshoma, also, you know, said it could have been better than it is, just as Chidi is saying. But at the end of the day, it's the Nigerian army itself that, you know, perhaps, again, by not speaking, by not addressing the issue that has given rise to all of this. Well, we've just about run out of time, and so we really have to thank Libros. Libros, I want to thank you very, very much for staying with us right through. Is it possible for you to give a one-liner on the NDDC thing to sort of round off?
Yes, always my pleasure. And like I said, Mr. President should not wait for eternity to act on this one. Let Akpabio be suspended the way Genuine had been suspended, had been ousted, and let there be a panel to actually investigate all of these allegations. Set up a board and then appoint forensic auditors to do the right thing.
Thank you very much. That was like 7 or 8 lines, but thank you very much, Libros. Okay, so that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. On behalf of Cyril Abaku, Yori Folarin saying please keep keeping safe.